Mr. Dennis,
How's it going, man?
thanks for joining.
Oh yeah. We tried a couple times. Third time's always the charm, right?
I know you're super busy. So you got introduced to me through Nick Wood at Graphic Source. Shouts out, Nick. Thank you. Appreciate it. First few times you said you were just slammed at the shop. And
Yeah.
what's been going on? Is it like a certain customer base that's just been picking up? It's just normal year-end stuff?
No, so I mean, our model is kind of direct to consumer, right? So 80% of our sales, come from online orders. They'll go on our website, go into the design studio, upload their logo, et cetera, right? And so, that's all based off of Facebook advertising. And so, our volume and our, how busy we are kind of depends on, simply how much we're spending per day.
Okay, wait. All right. So this is actually really interesting. So I've got notes here that say Five Boys Apparel, you're in Madison, Alabama, 4 autos, 2 shifts, cranking out work. You just added in another layer though, which is Facebook ads driven.
Correct.
So
yeah.
so how does this all work? And like, where did this start? Like, were you historically all Facebook ads driven?
No, I mean, historically, so kind of the backstory of our business, our mom started it in 2008, 2009 time period, right? That's where the name Five Boys comes from.
Got it. Shouts out, Mama
so,
does.
yeah, right. And it started as an embroidery shop, and then she added, screen printing around 2011, 2012. We just rocked a manual. And then I joined the company after I graduated college in, I think, summer of 2017.
Okay.
And then, from there, I tried to grow the business, obviously. I had one of my brothers join with me. And then so we actually got into contract printing. We got into it pretty heavy. You ever heard of Fresh Prints?
Yep. Yeah, we had them on the show.
Yeah. So we... probably end of 2018, all of 2019, Fresh Prints was probably 90% of our orders, right? And then probably 2020 hit, pandemic, they lost a bunch of orders, we lost a bunch of, orders from them, et cetera, right? But at the same time, you also had, that PPP, right? And so it was kind of, I've always wanted to dive deeper into Facebook ads. And so that's kind of where it got it started. Beginning of the pandemic, right? We were a contract shop, lost all of your contracts. And I was kind of like, well, shoot, where's that business going to come from moving forward?
Right.
And so, that's where
what size were you guys, at that time when everything?
At that time, we were 2 autos, 1 shift, right? Probably cranking out 10 orders a day, 10 to 15 orders a day, nothing crazy, right? And then we actually moved.
Business 85% contract, or was it? Because you said majority of it.
Yeah, it was it was 85% contract. Yeah. So we had Fresh Prints, and we also work with Boxercraft, right? So they actually outsource a lot of their orders. Boxercraft does, and so that was 2020 timeframe, right? Again, and so we kind of. With losing Fresh Prints, we leaned on Boxercraft's contract work to kind of provide that backbone foundation, right? And then at the same time, we tried to learn and just, figure out the Facebook ads, right? It's a pretty expensive endeavor, to kind of figure it out. And so, because it's one of those things that costs to play, right? And so we probably spent the first year, probably about $35,000, right, on ads. With not really a return. And then probably middle of 2021 is when we really kind of figured it out and really started cranking it, right? And from there, we've just been on a growth path ever since.
So this website, I'm pulling up your website. Is WordPress? Is this Inksoft?
No, that's Inksoft, yeah. Yep.
Okay, got it. And so,
so that's just Inksoft, when you go to, right? I mean, that's just an online store essentially on Inksoft.
Okay.
And we've kind of formatted it, customized it to be our main website is what we've done. We've tried the integrations, the API integrations with Shopify, things like that. It's just not as clean. It's really when it comes to adding to cart and that back end stuff with the API Inksoft, it just isn't doesn't really work very well. So, we just stuck with Inksoft and, we've had a lot of success with it.
Is the majority of your business Facebook driven?
Yeah.
Like for sales? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, you know, like for example, yesterday we spent, you know, about $902 in ads.
Okay. Is that like normal, $900 a day or so?
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a little bit lower than what we typically spend. But, you know, off of that, we had about $21,000 in online sales, right? That the pixel can directly track to, you know, those ads.
Yeah. And I'm calculating 27,000 a month. Does that sound about right? 25, 30,000 a month?
I mean, it's Facebook? Closer between 30 and 40.
Wow. 30, 40,000 a month on Facebook ads, driving to an Inksoft site here. And they're buying, it looks like, bundles. So like the first banner here, if you're listening, it's, 100 soft style shirts, $3.99 with free shipping. Now, not to, I've seen this posted on the Facebook groups, right? And folks will say, wow, how the heck are they even doing this? You know, this isn't great for the space. My thoughts are do whatever the heck you want. You charge whatever you want. And I've heard from shops that do this, though they also upcharge a lot throughout the checkout process. But does this work really well? Like, is that the most popular package?
Yeah, I mean, hands down, right? Our 100 for $3.99 is definitely right where a bulk of our orders come from. And so, you know, with that, where should I start at? Kind of my philosophy on it is, right, I mean, the only way to scale profitably in this industry is you've got to eliminate as many variations as you can, right? Okay. I mean, there's so many different variations in a screen printing order from, you know, the shirt, the design, the ink colors, right? There's everything that's, you know, a different variation. And so, you know, my philosophy is in order to, you know, scale profitably, you have to limit those, you know, variations, right? And so what we've done is we've created packages, you know, that are extremely aggressive price-wise, and, you know, we advertise them very aggressively. But from there, you know, it creates scale. And so that scale is kind of, you know, what creates the profit, why people look at it and they're like, there's no way you're making any money. And it's like, well, you know, if you're doing 15, 30 of these a day, you know, there's margin there for profit, right?
Gotcha. So somebody goes in, obviously on the Inksoft site, then they upload their design. I'm assuming is this like a one color?
Yeah. So the package pricing is for a 1 to 2 color print, right? You know, if they start getting outside of our parameters, then, you know, our pricing is just the same as everybody else's. But, you know, if you stay within that 100 shirt or, you know, 100 plus shirt, 1 color, 2 color front, yeah, it's going to be $3.99. But, you know, if you get to a 7 color front and 8 color back, I mean, you're looking at $14-15 that you're paying for 100 plus shirts, right? And so, I mean, you know, there's kind of a method to the madness, right? You know, it's not like we're just saying, you know, we're the cheapest printer in the country, you know, but at the same time, you've got to have something that, you know, you can advertise and that people are going to buy from you over, you know, somebody else, right?
How about we break down the margins a bit too? So like, you know, I pull up SNS, 64,000, you know, soft style shirt. It's around 275 or so on ours. Mm-hmm. How does that work? Like, do you get better pricing, or, you know, where does the margin get baked into if you're at $3? Yeah.
So actually, you know, going back to when we started the 100 for $3.99 special, right? Originally we had 100 for $3.80 heavy cotton special, which we still have. But if you kind of went back, this was like a year, six months ago, something like that, and looked at the pricing that Alpha SNS were giving us, you know, the difference between a 5,000 that we were purchasing and a 5,000 that they were, you know, their retail pricing was, you know, only about 35 cents, which, you know, is pretty good savings. It might've been more than that, but, you know, it wasn't that significant. Right. But if you looked at the soft style, you know, what they were giving us price wise for that versus, you know, what they were selling that retail wise, I mean, it was a significant gap. Right. And so it was like, oh, that's something that we can purchase obviously a lot lower than a lot of people can. So, you know, let's try to roll out that special there. You know, 275. And then from there, right, you know, we had a very low cost structure. They increased their pricing on us back in June or July. Right before they did that, we ordered 75,000 garments. Right. And so now from there, we hold stock. Right. And so, you know, we're not making purchases. You know, when we order from Alpha, you know, a typical purchase is like 50,000 garments. Right.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, obviously we're getting it much lower than that 276 price, 275.
Got it. So you've bought essentially huge amounts of bulk to stock it, and that's what gives a competitive edge. Which we did an episode of Lid Launch does a similar model when they purchase a ton of hats, store them on site, and then be able to ship out to do it as quickly as possible. Obviously, we didn't get into the pricing side, but so you've got the margin baked in because you got the bulk. How do you know what to buy? Is this sort of a guess based on historical purchasing or?
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, at this point, we kind of understand, we call them our staple colors, right? You got your black, your heather navy, your dark heather, your heather military green, your military
I see like
green.
20 colors in here.
Correct, right? I mean, you've got about 52 options, but you'd be surprised where the bulk of your orders are staying within, right?
Got it.
And then what's pretty interesting too is like certain colors like run through sizes a lot quicker than other colors. Like black, you don't go through a lot of smalls, but heather purple, heather navy, you're going through a lot of smalls. And so it's interesting, those kind of tidbits there that you kind of learn throughout buying this much bulk and turning this volume every single day, right? And then, so, we have our staple colors that we have, let's just say 8 to 10 cases per size, right? And then from there, we kind of have our secondary colors that include things like charcoal, royal, red, colors like that, right? That are used pretty much every day, but you're not using them for essentially every order, right? And then from there, we have, kind of it's an order, let's say like somebody orders 100 shirts in Daisy, right? We don't stock Daisy, but we're going to go ahead. And since we have a 100 shirt order for it, we're going to go ahead and order a case of each size. Right. And so, over time, over the course of about 4 months, we've obviously built our inventory, a lot better than if, at the very beginning when we made that initial purchase. Because I think when we, originally purchased the 75,000 garments, it was all in, black, dark heather, and like heather navy.
Interesting. Okay. And then so you'll go back, you're looking at historical numbers last month or 2 months or whatever it is to be able to know what's a purchase. And then how do you keep track of the inventory? Is that on the Inksoft store?
No, so that's not on Inksoft. So what we do there is we kind of lean on our inbound team, right? We have certain thresholds for certain colors. Once a color gets to a certain, level of, cases left, right? They'll mark it on a whiteboard, from there.
Got it. So they're seeing physically, like walking through to look at the warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
That's the thing. We lean on technology, but we don't lean on it too much, simply because, there can be a lot of holes, because when you lean into technology, you're leaning on somebody to actually input the data. Number one, you're actually leaning on them to input it correctly. And then, so, a lot of factors. And so, yeah, from an inventory side, we try to physically, see, what's out there, right?
What about art? How does that process work? On the site, you can upload stuff or you can design things online. Someone uploads a JPEG or something. Do you have someone plugging in and vectorizing? And
yeah, so pretty much everything gets redrawn, right? We got a team, I think it's 15 artists with GraphX.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah. So,
you're pumping volume.
Yeah. I mean, every day we ship, if we don't ship more than 40 orders a day, we should consider it a bad day.
Okay. So this is like an efficiency play here, because I think when people first see deals like this, they like, oh my gosh, this wouldn't work in my shop. And it's like, you're basically saying, yeah, no crap, because I've got it built out to where we're built around this.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, you got to think going back, to our kind of backstory. I mean, shoot, we were making like 52 cents per print for 100 color, 100 shirts, 1 color print for fresh prints and in contract work. Right. And so, in my mind, back then, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, somebody's paying us $2 for a 1 color front for 100 plus shirts. That's a win. Right. Yeah. So, this is kind of me and my brother, like, is all we've known is like high volume, low margin, stuff like that. And I always, when people, start saying stuff like we're bad for the industry, et cetera, everybody has a place in the industry if you can provide value to your customers, right? And so, we're not going to get orders, from the local PTA that, they expect a customer service, person to meet with them for 30 minutes, give them all these options, essentially not hold their hand, but, in order, like that, that's not us. Right. And so we're very upfront. We have a place in the industry. We try to stay in that lane because it's the only way, the order or the model works itself, right?
Hold on one sec. We've got 4 amazing sponsors that help put the show on every single week. So if you're looking for a vendor to be able to help with this, give them a shout, give them a go. It's really awesome that they can be able to help us put this on. All right, first up, 701-842. What are these? These are Stephen Farag's favorite chemicals from EasyWay. EasyWay has environmentally friendly chemicals to help with the reclaim process and making sure that it runs efficiently. So if you value a company and really need a partner, though, to be able to help with best practices, how-tos, and questions, EasyWay is there. Go to easyway.com, check them out. They've got over 100 distributors that they work with, and give them a go. Test some stuff out. All right, next up, Multicraft. If you haven't heard of Multicraft_Daddy, give them a follow on Instagram. If you need ink supplies or Daddy, Multicraft screen printing and digital supplies for over 50 years have been providing you with top brands at competitive pricing. Make sure to mention Printavo Pod to receive an extra 10% off your first order. Supercolor. All right, so if you think about this, if you print high color designs or gradients or just hard to print locations, Supercolor is there to be able to help. They have really incredible high quality transfers, but also they have just put out this really cool guide. And if you go to supercolor.com/printhustlers, it's a new guide to be able to help you with heat transfers and a lot of the best practices. So things like how to price. What about buying the best heat press for what you do? What about different types of transfers? All of that stuff is in that guide. That's supercolor.com/printhustlers. It's also in the link in the description below. And GraphX Source. Shouts out GraphX Source that if you need a solution to help improve efficiency and reduce costs in your art department, they are the go-to. And guess what? Five Boys Apparel has 15 artists from Graphic Source to be able to help them handle art approvals. SEPs, they're doing some high volume printing. So they do SEPs, mock-ups, creative work, order management, digitizing, back office admin, customer service, all that good production, art, and order entry. Graphic Source can help you. Mention Printavo Pod, that'll get you half off, 50% off your first SEP, or digitize or vectorize order. They've been around for 30 years. They are there to help. All right, back to the show. How do you manage, how much is it that you said an ad spend a month? Like 30, 40,000? What was that again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you manage that? That seems like a lot that can go out every day. Like, is there a firm you found that helps? Is it you? And
No,
it's just
I've tried an agency before. It's actually the same one Lid Launch uses. But, I've always kind of been a marketing guy. That's kind of always what I've been into. And then actually we still work with them, but they don't do as much volume. We had a client who we worked with in 2021 who does e-commerce for steel products, right? Steel decor. And I mean, they're, spending between 30 to 50,000 a day on ads, right? And so that's kind of what, yeah, right.
Wait,
right?
What company?
They're called Redline Steel is who they're called, right? Once you get into
company.
Yeah, it's like a steel home decor e-commerce based company, right?
And they spend 50 to 100 grand
30 to 50 a day. No, 30 to 50 a day. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, once you get into like the digital like space or like digital marketing space, right? Like $1,000, $5,000 a day, really, a lot of these guys are spending, crazy amounts of money. There's a reason Facebook, is
so
making over 100 billion.
Too.
Yeah, for sure.
Right,
at this point, right, our pixel is so well refined,
so dialed,
right? Yeah, that, I kind of know how much I spend as, I'm going to, make a certain amount in sales at this point. Right. But it's not like it started this way. It's not like, we were just yesterday I decided to start running ads and, I started running it with $1,000 budget and, I'm getting a 20% or 20, ROAS. Right.
Where do you start? If somebody were to want to do something similar, where do they start? Is it $5 a day because I think the thing that's interesting it's not even just spend too. I mean, it's clearly a very simple human based, like a psychological equation of, okay, 100 shirts, X dollars, perfect. Like one click buy, put in my sizes, unless people order more, maybe. Is that a thing too, or?
Yeah, I mean, we, obviously probably 60% are 100 even, right? But you'll have more, you'll have people that order like 1,000 shirts,
Got it.
I mean, and it's just how people purchase stuff. It's just great. I mean, I'm not the type of person, if I see an ad, I'm going to go buy, even if it's $50 worth of stuff, let alone, $5,000 worth.
I find I do more. I think Instagram has dialed it more where it's actually showing me stuff that I'm interested in. And, Steven and I will talk about this where, oh, wow, I think my wife would like that. Or like, oh, we were just talking about this or whatever. And like, this is a cool product. But it's definitely gotten a lot better. Wait, so they go through, you're basically managing the spend. You like it. You're into marketing. They go through here. Graphic Source is doing all of the art. There's a lot of artists on the back end helping. You said like 15. Okay, so ton of artists. What about approvals? How does that?
Yeah, so that work? Kind of Printavo. What we use Printavo for is approve. Like one of the main things is approvals, right? So it's kind of status based, the workflow. So we have a processing team with Graphics as well, right? So we get an online order. The processing team will take the order from Inksoft and create a Printavo invoice, right? They'll change it to a status that will send out an automation of an email, just saying, thank you for your order. Your order's been processed. Kind of here's the next steps of what to expect, right? And then they change it to a status that says create vector or create proof, something, I can't remember exactly which one. And then so from there, the vector team kind of knows, I think they have an automation set up on their end to where when it changes to that status, it gets added to a Google Sheet, right? So, the artist will work it, redraw it, proof it. They'll change the status to proof uploaded, which will send the customer an automated email for approval, right? So then from there, the customer can either approve, decline. If decline, it kind of goes back up in the loop. If it approves, it moves through the workflow.
Got it. And that's handling the approval. And then after that, it goes into, your production flow.
Correct, yeah.
On the back end. Where do you feel like with this you spend time? It sounds like managing ad spend is one thing, passionate about that. What else do you do?
Well, actually, I mean, from a managing the ad spend part, it's very little of my time, right?
And by the way, that came off weird. Like, what do you do here? It's like, no. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on, but where do you focus your time on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like counterintuitive, right? The most important thing in our facility is screens and picking, right? So I honestly spend a lot of my time in the dark room or in like inbound area, right? It's kind of where I spend.
So go deeper into that, like as far as screens go, as far as making it more efficient or, what?
Yeah, so kind of what, our model is based around, right, is obviously volume, low margin. It's extremely important that inbound and, dark room are always on the same page, right? I always say from an inbound side, you can always throw bodies to say, go pick orders, right? But if you get what screens you're burning and the order that you're burning in them wrong, I mean, you can, lose a whole day, half a day, 3/4 of a day. Which essentially is, a day and a half that you've lost, right? And so, the order of, screens being burned, kind of making sure that the screens that are burning, the garments are, either there or they're, being picked, is the most important thing in our facility. Because I always joke and say, once an order gets to the press, I mean, that's the easiest part about what we do, right? I mean, there's a reason these machines cost anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 a piece, right? And so, the hardest thing, especially at volume, at scale, is everything around getting an order to a press.
What are some things that you've learned spending so much time in the darkroom that other folks that don't have that efficiency yet, just because maybe they haven't hit a scale or volume issues. It could be people or processing or equipment thing, or, what could you share there?
Yeah, I mean, reason why it is so important that the screens are always the right ones coming out, right, is from a capacity thing, right? So we only have one eye image that we use. We've run out of power in our current space we're at. We only have a year and a half left on the lease. And so, it's a long story on if we want to get more equipment in this facility, right? And so right now we only have one eye image, which is only supposed to burn 80 to 100 screens a day. We're burning about 140 to 160 a day, right? And so probably the most important thing, like leading up to getting us here, I would say would be the exposure unit, right? Getting a Starlight was, hands down, probably one of the biggest game changer, and a Unicoat. And I mean, all three of those things, I mean, to me, they're no brainers at this point, right?
Yeah. And did you get them all at similar times, or was it sort of spread out?
No, so we got the eye image first, right? We've had the eye image the longest, because kind of my philosophy on that one was how I was able to kind of, justify that purchase when, it wasn't something, that it's, screaming we could afford it, right? Was you look at it and you're like, well, heck, I'm already spending, $700 a month on film that I'm essentially just throwing in the trash can, right? Mm-hmm. I can get an eye image, which is an asset. I can make a payment on that, which, it might be $100 more, but at least I'm making a payment on an asset versus, just throwing it in the trash, right? So, we got the eye image first. Then after that, we got the Unicoat. And then after that, we got the Starlight.
What do you feel like is your dream scenario in the darkroom? Is it more equipment, and is it, again, the people or process thing? Where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, probably more equipment, right? I mean, obviously, auto reclaim, something that we need very badly. But, again, that just goes back to a power issue. We just don't have enough power in here. And so, but, I do spend a lot of my time in the darkroom and things like that. But I'm not one of those that, like, is super into it, if that makes sense, right? Sure. I'm not going to, do testing and see, should I use a 305 or a 230, right? Should I, expose it for 0.2 seconds left or less, things like that. Because you'll find, 90% of the people that order T-shirts have no idea what mesh count you put it on, right? They have no idea, as long as it's a good final print, you can't really get caught up in, the perfection of it all, right? Now, again, if that is your value proposition, that's one thing, right? That, like an Andy, I forget his name, the guy from Nashville, right? Was super skilled at the stuff. So, if that's kind of your value proposition, that's one thing, but that's just obviously not ours with our 100 for $399 deal, right?
Yeah, you got to be you're almost like taking the efficiencies from what you need in a contract shop and applying it to direct to consumer to continue pumping as much as you can. You spend time there. Would you say that that's like best use of time, or where do you feel like you want to? Because I feel like sometimes, for me, for example, it's probably that I should be spending time with hiring or maybe some product stuff, but like I'm actually spending time elsewhere. Is that how you feel, or do you feel like
100%.
spot on?
Yeah, 100%. Right. I mean, every day I always say, my time should not be being spent the way I'm spending it, but every single day you walk, you're back into that trap. Right. And so, saying I should be training people. I should definitely be spending a lot more time, on the front end of our business from a customer service side, just training them, because T-shirts sound simple, but every order is just so situational, right? So you can give 5 scripts of, what you think is going to work for, 5 different scenarios. But within those 5 scenarios, each one is going to be kind of situational, right? And so, training the customer service side is, definitely something where I should be spending a lot more of my time. And then just, the more of the management from a holistic view of the business versus, I call it being in the weeds of, the day-to-day activities, right?
So with this change that's all happened probably within the last year or less, you guys must have grown a ton then with, having to hire folks and buy all this new stuff? Was that all mainly happened this year?
I mean, it's been about the past 2 years, right? Because honestly, we had before 2021 Redline, who I was, talking about earlier, they were essentially sending us about 75,000 shirts a month to print, right? So that's the volume that they were doing. So we had a little bit less people than we have now. We were right about 15 to 20. Then, end of 2021, they've kind of died off and doing that type of volume. We got down to kind of a skeleton crew of about 10 to 12 people. And now we're back up to, I think it's about 29, 31. And then if you include graphics, I think we've got 20 people total with them. Then 2 team leads, so 22.
Where do you feel, have you thought about where you want Five Boys to go to? Like if you thought maybe 5 years, I want it to look like this.
Yeah, I'd, definitely go back and forth about what kind of the end game is, right? Some days it's, you want to do, X, Y, Z. Other days you're like, well, I want to do ABC as my end game, right? And so what I always joke with my cousin about, because he actually works for a shop up in Cincinnati, he asks me all the time, what's kind of our end game, right? Do we want to sell? Do we want to, grow? Do we, what do you want to do with it? And I say, well, right now I think me and my brothers can all agree, because there's 4 out of 5 of us that currently work here full time, right? And I say, it's, we work hard. We haven't had a want for money for a long time. We get to spend every day with each other, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, shit, at the end of the day, most days are ended with, the 4 of us and my dad drinking a beer out back, right? And it's like, I mean, I don't know if I want that to change, right? And so I don't really think too far ahead, but at the same time, we do have a strategy and a goal that we're trying to accomplish. And so whether that end game is to go here or go there, I guess it kind of just depends on kind of how everything shakes out, right?
Yeah. Are you able to say where you think you'll scale to this year, revenue wise?
Yeah. I mean, in 2022, we'll be right around, 9 million. In 2023, we hope to get around over 20 is kind of, our goal.
Honestly, hats off to you, Kyle and family and team. I think that's a really good, especially pivoting from a full contract shop, right? So, we've chatted with a lot of shops who they definitely maybe want to or one way or the other, but you were forced from the pandemic to really move off of it.
Yeah, and so
that pushed it. It sounds like it pushed it forward pretty quick.
Oh no, I mean, I always say the pandemic was one of the best things that happened to us, because it required us to get outside of our comfort zone, right, and kind of see what happened from there. From contract work, I forget, there was somebody else, a sales rep from NASDAR told me when I first got in, right? They said, you'll learn in contract work, you can make a living, but you'll never get rich, right? And so I think there's a lot of truth to that. But also when you get into contract work at a very high volume, they're paying you less than direct to consumer, but they're usually a lot harder to deal with, right? The expectations are a lot higher. The pressure's a lot higher. Everything that goes into that is a lot more demanding, right? From a contract side than a direct consumer. And then, end of the day, direct consumer pays you before you print, contract pays you, 30 days after, you ship the order. So from a cash flow side, it's a huge, huge difference.
At 9 million, do you feel like there were certain maybe chapters or break points in the business where it may have shifted, or you thought about the business differently? Like, I don't know, maybe 1 million was a big milestone, but that also required having somebody full-time running customer service or something. And 3 million was another one. Like, has there been points like that at Five Boys?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think 1.5, right? You thought you would be making a lot more money than what you kind of get to take home. Because, it's good money, don't get me wrong, but I mean, the cost of doing that type of business is substantial, especially when you're just figuring it out, right? When you're just when you just get to that scale, that level of, and, you're making a lot of errors that you typically wouldn't make before, you're spending, you either have too many people in one department when you don't really need that many people, right? And so I think, yeah, that was one of the thresholds. And I think once we got over kind of the 3 to 4 range, is kind of when it started snowballing more, right?
What changed around that 3 to 4 to start scaling? Like, was it an equipment? Was it a people thing? Was it a process thing? Was there certain roles that you needed on the team?
I think it was more, processing systems, right? And then just getting better at what we were doing every day. You know what I mean? From a marketing side, from a fulfillment side, right? And just everything all that goes into it, right? I think that played a huge role in allowing us to continue to grow. And then once we reached, like I said, that certain threshold, it kind of just, we got that momentum. And once you have momentum, as long as you don't screw it up, right?
What do you think the next break point is, or milestone rather? Is that 10?
Yeah, I think it would be 10. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think you'd change at 10?
I don't think too much.
So you think so basically maybe the sort of 5 to 10 plus, you can continue scaling with the same flow?
Yeah, I think anything over 10, right, would require more machines, more people, right? More capacity.
Have you thought about, do you send work out, or do you guys do everything in-house?
Yeah, we do everything in-house.
Mainly because of it's got to be quick and you've got the inventory there and so on.
Honestly, we've never really had a lot of success sending stuff out, right? And then, we always joke and say, when we did a lot of work for Fresh Prints, we were in a, 1,200 square foot facility running a workhorse, right? And we always joke and we're like, unless you're sending it to, official contract printer, those are the shops you're sending the orders to, right? I mean, nothing against them, obviously, because we were there. I mean, and so from a standard level, expectations and quality, there's a lot of differences on what people consider a good print and what they don't.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you feel like is the biggest efficiency improvements then that you're trying to make for 2023? Because the efficiency is such a big play.
Yeah,
scheduling just getting the jobs in the right press and with the right people.
Correct. Yeah, because I mean, for example, Boxercraft, what they did a really good job at from a scheduling side is when they sent you a wave of orders, it would be 60 orders or something, right? And you would go in lots of 10, and yeah, they would be for different universities, but they would all be the same Pantone colors, right? So you're not changing out your squeegees, things like that. And so, that's kind of the next step from a scheduling side is,
So intelligent scheduling. Correct.
Because, I mean, if you just think about, if an operator has to change out their squeegee, for every order, let's just say they're doing it, 4 times a shift. All right. It takes them 10 minutes. So that's 40 minutes. You've got 4 operators. It's 160 minutes, times that by 2, because we're running 2 shifts. I mean, that's a lot of downtime.
I just think what's fascinating is this is the story behind the 100 for $3.99, right? Which, are you on the Facebook groups at all or no?
No, I don't. Personally, I don't, use a lot of social media.
Yeah, you're smart. You're smart. It's better. It's cleaner. It's healthier.
It's a trap, man.
But it comes up a lot. It totally does. I
mean, and it's not, I think what you've got to think about is it's not like, we just started this last week and we're profitable doing it, right? It's kind of taken us 2 years to get to the scale that we're at and the efficiency that we're at to be profitable having these prices. And before, 2020, 2021, if you look back, you had that PPP in 2020, 2021, we had Redline, who essentially was paying us, about a lot of money every month with no cost of goods. And so instead of just, pocketing that money, essentially, right, we used it as the foundation and the backbone to finance kind of getting to where we are, right? Because, I mean, as you know, right, in order to grow, in order to try a strategy out, I mean, it takes capital. You have to finance it somehow, right? And so that's so we used a lot of contract work to kind of get us to the point that we're at, right? And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back. I mean, our UPS rates, are a lot more aggressive than I think 85% of people, that are shipping stuff out would have, right? Next day air, I think we're getting an 85% discount or something, And so it's all of these things that go into play once you hit a scale that allows you to, that you see that profit from, and it's a cultural thing. I mean, it goes into the culture, you got to have a low cost culture all around, right? Doesn't mean you don't have nice things, but it doesn't mean, you're spending your time doing, things that are not directly impacting getting orders out, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that the thing that's big is, as a business grows, like you first start doing everything and you have this super wide funnel. And then as the business grows, you tend to narrow in that funnel even more and more and more. And that's what gets the efficiencies and the scale, because you zeroed in the sales team, you zeroed in the website, you zeroed in the processes, and it allows you to really streamline and run like a Formula One car. Like the Formula One cars are only good for that one thing of driving around, and they're not going to be on the street. They can't even go up, a speed bump or something, right? So that's the specific thing that they can really race at. And so I just find it fascinating to learn more on the back end. So
I mean, Kyle, it's a lot, a strategy from it, so, and then it goes back, you got to have something to advertise on Facebook to cut through the noise, right? And so if you
any tips on the creative or anything you found
don't try to
well?
overcomplicate it, right? I think simplicity is key, right, with advertising on social media. And I think direct to response advertising is key, not brand awareness.
What's
advertising. Direct to response means, I'm running an ad that you see it and I'm, having like, go buy this, right? It's not, hey, this is my company and I print t-shirts, right? See you later. It's a direct to response. I want you to take a immediate, action once you see my ad. Essentially from a, sales funnel, marketing funnel, outlook, we kind of skip, the first 4 steps of it and we go straight for the, kill shot, right? First touch, we're asking you to buy 100 shirts for $3.99. So we're not spending any money on marketing, on touch 1 through 4. Okay. So, you can look at it and say, that savings there is kind of what allows me to, have margin on that back end on that 100 for $3.99.
Yeah, you're not doing the back and forth to figure out what shirt and the sizes and different items. It's like very straight to the point.
Yeah. And then, the ad sets that I'm running, are for you to purchase a shirt or, purchase a package. It's not, to let you know that I'm Five Boys Apparel and, we do screen printing. So, let's just say we're spending $30,000 a month. Out of that 30, if, 10,000 of it was spent on brand awareness ads, instead of direct to response ads, then, there's a lot of your margin right there that you're saying that for $103.99, you're not making any money. It just goes back to your strategy on the type of business model you're trying to have, right?
Kyle, I appreciate the time spent. I know you're slammed. You got more deals to fulfill and Facebook ad spend to manage and everything. So This is Kyle Dennis at Five Boys Screen Printing and Embroidery. Check them out. Check out the website too, fiveboysapparel.com. So you could just dig in, especially if you're listening on audio, so you could see what the flow is like. And I'm sure they can reach out if they've got questions with you. You're like one of the fastest email responders I've seen.
Well, it just depends. If I'm either one of two things, right? I'm either going to respond to you within 5 minutes or like it's going to be about 3 days. There's no in between with me on emails. You're smart. Right? You
prioritize. It's like, I don't need, and I think a lot of people do that too. I do it, it's like, okay, I don't need to respond to this right now.
But yeah, it's been fun, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle. Hey, Print Hustlers, we will see you on the next podcast next week. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you joining us again for this really cool episode. Talk to you later. Bye.